Today will be part 16 to the series Scriptures Often Ignored. And today we're going to be talking about Satan's true character, and we're going to be focusing on Iyub, or Job chapter 1 and 2. And I've been meaning to do this for a long time. And Yahuwah willing, this will be part 1. And the second part to this will be the book of Jasher, or in the Apocrypha, Yasher, chapters 22 through 24, where we will also see Satan's true character, and we're going to be exposing his true character, because what you're going to see is that there is no reason to fear him or the government or the NWO or any of his agents or demonic forces, because what you're about to see is that he is not in control. Yahuwah and Yahuwah alone is in control, and I'm going to prove that with some scripture. So we're here in Job chapter 1 and chapters 2, and this is the only time that we see Satan in the book of Job at all. But it says, and I'm going to read the whole thing: there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Iyub, or Job, and that man was perfect and upright, and one that feared Elohim, or Elohim, and eschewed evil. And there were born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. And if you're new to this channel, well, I use the set apart restored Hebrew names for our creator Yahuwah and the Messiah Yahusha. But it goes on to say, his substance also was 7,000 sheep and 3,000 camels and 500 yoke of oxen and 500 she-asses, and a very great household, so that this man was the greatest of all the men of the east. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one his day, and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, and rose up early in the morning, and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Iyub said, that may be that my sons have sinned, and cursed Elohim in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. Now there was a day when the sons of Elohim, which are the fallen angels, came to present themselves before Yahuwah, and Hasatan, or Satan, came also among them. And Yahuwah said unto Hasatan, or Hashatan, whence comest thou? Then Satan answered Yahuwah and said, from going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahuwah said unto Hashatan, hast thou considered my servant Iyub, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and an upright man, one that feareth Elohim and escheweth evil? Then Hashatan, or Satan, answered Yahuwah and said, doth Iyub, or Job, fear Elohim for naught? So what does Satan ask Yahuwah? He asks him, does Job really fear Yahuwah like he says he does? So what is he trying to do? He's trying to test Job. Satan is trying to test Job, but how can he do it? He has to go to Yahuwah first. Let's keep going. Hast not thou made a hedge about him, and about his house, and about all that he hath on every side? Thou hast blessed the work of his hands, and his substance is increased in the land. But put forth thine hand now, and touch all that he hath, and he will curse thee to thy face. So Satan says, well, you put a hedge of protection around him, but now it's time to really test him and see if he will still have that love for you, Yahuwah, just as you say he does. And Yahuwah said unto Hashatan, or Satan, behold, all that he hath is in thy power. Only upon himself put not forth thine hand. So Hashatan, or Satan, went forth from the presence of Yahuwah. And there was a day when his sons and his daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Iyub, or Job, and said, the oxen were plowing, and the asses feeding beside them, and the Sabeans fell upon them, and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So what happened? The Sabeans came and took all away, the oxen and the asses and everything, and only the messenger escaped all of that. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of Elohim is fallen from Shamayim, or heaven, and hath burned up the sheep and the servants, and consumed them, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands, and fell upon the camels, and have carried them away, yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, Thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house, and behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the four corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are dead, and I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Then Ehud or Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped and said, Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. Yahuwah gave, and Yahuwah hath taken away. Blessed be the name of Yahuwah, or Baruch be the name of Yahuwah, I should say. And all this Job or Ehud sinned not nor charged Elohim foolishly. So as you can see, this is a giant parable. But what is it really saying? That all of these things started to happen to Job. All his family has been displaced and they were killed. The sheep and the oxen, they have been killed. Everything has been going wrong in Job's life. But what does Job do? Rather than getting upset about it and rather than getting all hurt about it, what does he do? He worships Yahuwah, and he even says, Baruch be the name of Yahuwah. So even despite all his troubles and his hardships, he still did not sin, but rather nor did he charge Elohim foolishly, but he still reverenced the name of Yahuwah. And this was Satan's way of trying to test him. Because why did this happen to begin with? Because Satan went to Yahuwah and said, oh, well, Job is righteous, all right, but will he be righteous in the days of affliction? And Yahuwah allowed Satan to make these things come upon Job. But what did Job do? He remained faithful unto Yahuwah, and we're going to see just what it talks about later on. Now, of course, we know that the rest of the book talks about Job and how he's lamenting over what happened to him and everything, and it's a song book, of course, but we also know the rest of the story when it comes to that and how his friends are trying to console him throughout the rest of the book. But I also would like to go over with you Ehud or Job chapter 2, because like I said, remember, the main thing we're focusing on today is the character of Satan and how Satan cannot do anything, nor can Satan lift a finger unless he gets approval from Yahuwah, unless he gets approval from the Father. Satan just can't do any old thing that he wants to. Satan just can't do any old thing to you. He has to get approval from the Father in order to do it. And I hope you're seeing that through the story of Job. But here we are in chapter 2, and it says, Again there was a day when the sons of Elohim, or the fallen angels, came to present themselves before Yahuwah, and Hashatan, or Satan, came also among them to present himself before Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said unto Hashatan, From whence comest thou? And Hashatan answered the Yahuwah and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And Yahuwah said unto Hashatan, or Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man? Let's read that again. Perfect and upright man, one that feareth Elohim and escheweth evil. And still he holdeth fast his integrity, although thou movest me against him to destroy him without cause. How did that happen? Although you move me against him to destroy him without cause. Because why? Satan's testing Job to see if he's really faithful to Yahuwah as he says he is. And this should be applying to us every single day. Are we as faithful to Yahuwah as we say we are? Because if we are, well, we can expect to get tested from Satan, but it has to be according to the will of Yahuwah. That is Satan's true character. He don't got no power over you. You are more powerful than you think. But let's keep going. Verse 4, And Hashatan, or Satan, answered Yahuwah and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. So what is Satan trying to do here? He's trying to tell Yahuwah that, well, yes, you're the one who's protecting him, but in times of affliction will he still be faithful as he says he is. And Yahuwah said unto Hashatan, or Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. So what does Yahuwah tell him? He's in the hand of Satan, but what? Save his life. So don't do that much harm to him. Satan can't take him out like he probably wanted to. Why? Because Yahuwah is the one in control. So what did Satan do? Verse 7, So went Hashatan, or Satan, forth from the presence of Yahuwah, and smote Ehud or Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. So what did Satan do? He smote Job with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. Then said his wife unto him, Dost thou retain thine integrity? Curse Elohim and die. So what does his wife try to do? Oh my goodness, we see exactly the bigger agenda here. His wife tries to tell him, well, you see that all of this is being done to you without cause, so you should curse Yahuwah Elohim. That is what his wife is trying to tell Job. But Job says unto her, Thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. So he tells that she's like a fool. What? Shall we receive good at the hand of Elohim, and shall we not receive evil? And all this did not Job sin with his lips. So he still did not sin, and he still knew Yahuwah Elohim. And this was done for what? To bring him closer to Yahuwah and to fear and trust in Yahuwah even more, despite all of his trials and tribulations. Verse 11, Now when Job's 3 friends heard of all this evil that was come upon him, they came every one from his own place, Eliphaz the Temanite, and Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite, for they had made an appointment together to come to mourn with him and to comfort him. And when they lifted up their eyes afar off and knew him not, they lifted up their voice and wept, and they rent every one his mantle, and sprinkled dust upon their heads towards heaven, or Shamayim. So they sat down with him upon the ground 7 days and 7 nights, and none spake a word unto him, for they saw that his grief was very great. So he was grieving and mourning, and his friends came to comfort him, but they said nothing to him for 7 days. So what we see through all of this is that despite all of Job's tribulations and despite his trials, that he was still handling it righteously, and he was handling it of the way that Yahuwah wants and expects. And sometimes for us, as we continue to journey into righteousness, journey into truth, we see that it's not an easy walk. We see that it's a very difficult walk. And just as the book of Sirach or Ecclesiasticus tell us that we are to prepare our hearts for temptation, we are to prepare for temptation. We are to know that as we continue to walk in Yahuwah and walk in the ways of Yahuwah and follow his Torah, that we will expect judgment, and we will expect things and trials and tribulations to take place. But we just have to know that things do happen for a reason, and that Yahuwah is trying to show us something. He's trying to lead us into a higher level and keep us on his path. And we just have to know that when those times do come, that we are just to trust him and trust him even more, and know that he and he alone will bring us out of those trials. And although we may not understand what is coming our way and the afflictions that are coming our way, we just have to know that Yahuwah will navigate us through them, and that he will protect us from them. But like I said, through this parable and passage alone, we see that Satan could not kill Job. He could do all these things to Job, but he could not take him out. He could only do what Yahuwah allowed him to do. And that is what I want to drive home today, is that Satan can't just do anything to you. He can't just, take you out, because if it were up to Satan, he wants to kill and take out the righteous any single way he can, any way, shape, or form that he can. But he can't do that. The only thing he can do is he can go to Yahuwah and test him. In order for Satan to do anything, in order for him to even lift a finger, he must first go to Yahuwah. He must first go to the Father in heaven and get his instruction first before he can do anything. And that is what we see. He must first go to our Father, and then the Father must allow him to do certain things before he can actually do it. Satan does not have the power, and that is what I'm trying to get you to see today. Satan is powerless when it comes to the world and when it comes to Yahuwah. Everything that you see being done today, Yahuwah must allow it, and he must approve of it. So for example, when it comes to slavery with the real children of Israel, Yahuwah allowed all of that to happen because our ancestors and our biblical forefathers of the Israelites, they transgressed against the word of Yahuwah. So he allowed all of that to happen. But it wasn't any of Satan's power or Satan's volition. It was Yahuwah allowing it to happen. Just like it reminds us of the movie The Wizard of Oz. And I'm sure all of us have seen that movie or have heard of it. And we're all familiar with the one scene where Dorothy and the others, when they meet the Wizard of Oz and they're at the place and they see the giant figure that's a deception figure, and they see the scary figure, and then Dorothy, unveils the curtain, and there's a man standing behind the curtain, and she says, "Who are you?" And the man says, "Oh my," and the man starts fearing and cowering. That is the character of Satan, as we see. That is Satan's true character. He is more afraid of you than you are of him. He is more afraid of the righteous than you are of him. And I hope you see that and see that you are more powerful than you think. In this instant, Satan was more afraid of Job than Job was of Satan. And because of that, what did Satan want to do? He wanted to test Job and to test his faith and to test his faith in Yahuwah to see if he will continue to remain true to Yahuwah and continue to cleave unto Yahuwah as he say he is, or to see if he will continue to do otherwise. And so that is the biggest test of life, honestly. And that is how Satan tests us, by going to Yahuwah. So when trial and tribulation come your way, you don't have to fear, you don't have to worry, you don't even have to get upset about it, or get upset with Yahuwah about it, but rather you can rejoice and praise Yahuwah, because you know that you're getting closer in a higher level and you're growing in your spiritual walk with Yahuwah. And like I said, Satan has no power. He is powerless, just like the Wizard of Oz, who was really powerless. He puts on that deception and that illusion that, oh, he's the great and powerful Oz and the mighty Oz, but really it's all a big deception. He's really just a cowering man, just like Oz. It's the same thing, or a cowering angel of light, because he's more afraid of you that are in righteousness and of truth than those of the world. I'm telling you, you're more powerful than you think you are, and I'm going to link that video below as well. But hopefully this has helped you see Satan's true character. And like I said, Yahuwah willing, I'm also going to go over the book of Jasher that also exposes Satan's true character. And there's a reason that this book was taken out of scripture, because like I said, Satan does not want you to know his true character. He wants you to think that he's oh so powerful and oh so mighty, when he is not powerful at all, when he has to take his orders from Yahuwah as well, and he has to adhere to and follow the word of Yahuwah, as well as the other fallen angels. But hopefully this has been helpful for you. This is Truth Unveiled here, saying Shalom.